Hello dear friends, Eastwind is with you. Today I will tell you about Russian laser weapons. So, American military technology is very high. This statement is taken for granted by many. The Americans themselves believe in him. Of course, the shining city overseas has always been famous. Beautiful picture, and their military budget, more than all other countries combined. America's military subsidized the production of useful devices, which significantly increased its efficiency. For example, America was the first to receive the mass introduction of thermal imagers and thermal imaging sights. With their help, fighters had the opportunity to see in pitch darkness. The enemy often found himself helpless, with nothing to counter, when inexpensive compact thermal imaging sights began to be used en masse. The American military began to have the illusion of its complete superiority in night combat with the help of such devices. But, as it turned out, not everything is so simple. Thermal imaging equipment is not as versatile as you might think. Its vision is based on recording the difference in temperature surrounding environment and people, enough to provide more efficient dispersion, heat, or make sure that body heat does not heat up clothes. Then their effectiveness decreased significantly, but we will return to this point later. So, in American uniforms it is used to this day. There is a special impregnation that reduces visibility soldier in a thermal sight. They also, of course, tried to use special heat-insulating suits, for example like a fireman's suit. It quickly became clear that in it, especially in summer or in hot countries, you can simply get thermal blow with all the ensuing consequences for the fighter. And the quality of camouflage left much to be desired. In general, many scientists are currently struggling with this problem. For example, Russian engineers solved the problem in their own way and went the other way. To camouflage ourselves from thermal images, we decided to fuse special raincoat tents externally. They are difficult to distinguish from analogs. They are sewn from camouflage material, and they can not only hide fighters from thermal images, but also protect from the wind and bad weather. Such a raincoat has already begun to arrive in active military units. Its effectiveness was tested earlier and has now been confirmed many times. First of all, it is now used in the zone of a special military operation by sniper pairs, special forces units, and sabotage groups. But for night assaults, this thing can also show incredible effectiveness. Now the Russian military-industrial complex continues to gain momentum. In addition to supplying the army with everything necessary, military engineers and designers are developing based on experience in the special military operations zone. But not only recently, forgotten developments from the times of the USSR were brought up, and who can now, in the literal sense of the word, change the course of battles and save many lives of soldiers, including those on the front line. Now, attention! During the Soviet era, there was one popular film called Guest from the Future, where the plot was built around a new device called Milifon. With the help of this device, it was possible to read the thoughts of not only other people but even animals. The device was developed by a group of scientists from Professor Seleznev's laboratory and the space pirates who were on the verge of extinction and saw in the Milifon an opportunity to gain power over galaxy, and so two of them decided to take possession of the device. Next was a laser gun scene where the pirates were shooting. And this is where we will stop. Few people know that while Americans have been creating beautiful pictures of brave Jedi, laser swords, and massive shootouts using laser weapons in the Star Wars films, Soviet scientists in those days, more precisely in the middle 80s, developed the first real laser pistols. According to the designers, it was intended for individual protection of astronauts. But since there were no aggressive green men nearby, there were no sightings from the Mir orbital station and to the Stellar. There were no wars between the USA and the USSR, so no use was found for it. Drawings and prototypes were postponed until better times, but everything is changing. After all, at the end of the Soviet era, no one even dreamed that after a short time one of the key roles in combatant actions of any intensity, drones will play a role, crawling, swimming, and most importantly flying, and in large numbers. and manned aerial vehicles have literally burst into military affairs. They are changing their battle tactics before our eyes, and soon perhaps will also be considered from a strategic point of view. There is no 100% protection against them yet, as we have seen recently. They are diverse in their design and size, and of course materials. But they have one thing in common: the presence of powerful optics. It is precisely the optics that can nullify all the advantages of drones, making them very vulnerable to laser weapons. It's worth noting that this problem could have been resolved much earlier, if not for one thing. The development of combat lasers in the USSR was very active and very successful. Russia was the leader in this direction. Therefore, it was precisely against military laser technologies that a most powerful and destructive blow was dealt in the 90s. But something has been preserved and should be in demand right now, at a new technical and elemental level. Of course, more than 30 years ago, at the Precision Engineering Design Bureau, named after Nuttleman, designed a portable laser device that was able to stop tank attack and also identify snipers, no matter how they disguise themselves, and operators of anti-tank guided missile systems. Moreover, all this could be done by the soldiers who carried a 50 kilograms device, disassembled and controlled it on the battlefield. And Russia already had these technologies at that time. The essence of the unique system simple. A laser beam emitted in an invisible frequency range scanned a potentially dangerous sector at the forefront of defense. And as soon as an enemy optical device came into the scanning device's coverage area, it was immediately struck by a combat laser, the powerful beam of which simply burned out the optics. Well, the vision of those enemies who looked through these optics. It is worth noting that the device did not react to fragments of bottle and window glass. As you know, modern armored vehicles, it is combat ready as long as the optics of the electronic surveillance system and fire control are intact. Once they are disabled, the formidable equipment immediately turns into a blind pile of metal. In practice, the Russian army received cheap, mobile and very effective anti-tank weapons, which, without firing a single shot, nullified the combat capabilities of all enemy armored vehicles. But even more effective it turned out to be against snipers, even pointing the barrel with a loaded optical sight towards those who had laser protection became tantamount to suicide. Firstly, the sniper's coordinates were calculated instantly, and secondly, the expensive sight was completely destroyed. The creators of wonderful weapons began to think about how to name their development so that no one would guess anything, and most importantly, there should be no mention of the laser. Well, of course, they named it in such a way that I didn't manage to voice it the first time, abbreviated as PAST. That is, a portable, automated sighting device. The laser complex was successfully tested and prepared for mass production in the early 90s. And this in Russia was a time of total humanization and extreme openness. Things got to the point where the then Minister of Foreign Affairs openly said that Russia does not have national interests, that we can profess only universal human values. And these humane, insignificant, common people at that time convinced the ruling elite of the inadmissibility, adoption of a system so barbaric in their opinion, which could blind a sniper or gunner who was clinging to the side, and the fact that foreign warriors looked towards their enemies not through binoculars, but were looking for targets for destruction, did not bother the humanists. And although the name of the complexes has been preserved to this day, it was nevertheless accepted for service, and they even released a limited batch. But he never joined the troops, since at that time the country respected international law above its national interests. In 1999, Russia ratified Protocol No. 4 on blinding laser weapons, additional protocol to the Convention on Prohibitions or Restrictions on the Use of Specific Types of Conventional Weapons that could be considered to cause excessive damage or have indiscriminate effects, adopted by the State Duma on June 18, 1999, and approved Federation Council on June 25, 1999. President of the Russian Federation Boris Yeltsin. That's all. The use of combat lasers by the Russian army was actually prohibited by international convention, as well as internal documents. Therefore, even during the active phase of the counter-terrorism operation in the North Caucasus, federal forces did not use anti-sniper laser devices. Unfortunately, no one counted how many Russian soldiers and officers died as a result of such humanism. PSD-type laser systems can automatically scan the airspace, day and night, accordingly instantly determine the presence of any drone and neutralize it. At the same time, if guaranteed elimination of enemy drones will cost very little in contrast to the use of anti-aircraft missiles against them. Laser systems will also easily deprive the effectiveness and combat effectiveness of the most modern Western anti-tank missile systems such as Javelin. Their missiles are guided using optical systems that will be destroyed before enemy missiles achieve the goal. Many experts are confident in the need for urgent revision of legal acts adopted in the 90s that conflict with the situation today. Moreover, new targets have opened up for combat lasers and new horizons. It's time to completely rethink the concept of fighting drones. Moreover, those that apply in mass quantities hit them in the most vulnerable places. And this can be not only the radio control system, but also optics. The most vulnerable will be the so-called combat drones. Considered formidable new generation drones, the basis of their virtual control is optics, and stall for time with the start of production, and then, as soon as possible, the introduction of laser detection and destruction systems into the zone of a special military operation. Under no circumstances is it possible. And I'll end here, dear friends. Eastwind was with you. Be sure to subscribe to my channel now. Good luck, guys.